Hey, I am Shazian and this is Let's Get Sober. Today we are at the center of the Eurasian continent, and this monument, this stone here, marks it. If you're ever in Tomsk, you can find it at the Tomsk Research State University. It's right at the gate. As soon as you walk in, you take like 20 steps and you are there, right here. So today we will be actually speaking about food. I will be telling you about my first experience eating Russian food, what the food was. I will give you a list of a few foods that you can try and explain them, explain how different they are, what exactly they consist of. Not entirely, I'm not Russian, but I'll try my best. And then I'll tell you the difference between Antiguan food and Russian food, the main difference. So after coming to Russia, I was a bit scared, or even before coming to Russia, I was not really scared, but I would say I was a bit interested to find out about the foods because I'd asked another student from Antigua about Russian foods, and they were like, yeah, I don't like Russian foods. I basically just like eat KFC, and I'm like, KFC isn't Russian food, you know. KFC isn't anybody's food, maybe American, but you know, it's like not traditional anything food. So then when I got here, after about 4 days, I was with this Russian girl and I asked her, can you take me a place to try some Russian food? And she was like, yeah, sure. You know, and so she took me to a canteen. In Russian, that's called Stalovaya. That's the singular, in plural, that's Stolovia. And these canteens serve traditional Russian foods. Of course, they have a little bit more, they have little tweaks. They won't be exactly as you would find them in the homes, but they'll be the closest thing that you will find. So I went and I was looking at all these things that were a bit different to me. They were new completely. And of course, I didn't know Russian, so she was trying to explain to me what things were. And I went with the potato puree and a cutlet, a chicken cutlet. At the time, I actually thought it was mashed potato, but then I've later found out it was actually puree. That's actually what is called potato puree. And it's not mashed, it's actually pureed in a blender. And it's basically potato and milk. That's it. And the chicken cutlet would be what you might consider to be a chicken patty. Just that instead of being in a round shape, it's in an oval shape. And it's breaded a little bit. So I tried these things, the very first things I'm trying. I tasted them and I was like, oh, this tastes a lot like home. Because at home we use a lot of garlic and onion, and like as soon as I tasted the potato puree, I instantly tasted the garlic, and then I tasted the chicken cutlet, and it was just like, there's nothing here to be afraid of. There's not that big of a difference. The way we eat our foods might be different, because I wouldn't have necessarily eaten a chicken patty with mashed potato, and I wouldn't also have necessarily pureed my potato either. So that was different, but the ingredients are still the same and it was tasty. And so that gave me the courage I needed to jump out and start trying other foods, like draniki, which is basically grated white potato and eggs mixed together then fried, and manik, which is semolina cake. Semolina is the grain in cream of wheat. Yeah, cream of wheat is the brand, semolina is actually the grain. What else have I tried? I've tried baked omelette, which is basically just like eggs and milk, a whole bunch of eggs and a lot of milk. You pour it into a pan and you bake it. It's so delicious. But I would have never thought of doing that, or you know, like it tastes different from an actual omelette. It's delicious. So those are some of the foods. They're really tasty, and you should definitely try some. There's also a lot of soups. Borscht and shi. Borscht is like a beet soup, and shi is more of a cabbage soup. So they're really tasty. If you get a chance to try them, try them. So the next thing we're talking about is how different Russian foods are from Antiguan foods. Let me say cuisine. Let's say the cuisine, because the Russian cuisine, the foods seem a lot thinner. So for a long time I was like eating, but then I would still get hungry really quickly afterwards. But then what I realized was that I was eating the soups but not eating the bread. At every meal, except tea, there's bread on the table. And Russians, basically, they will not eat unless there's bread on the table. It's an absolute necessity. And I was skipping this. And what I realized after was that where Russians have bread on the table, we Antiguans usually have some flour incorporated into our meal. So we have a soup, but then there are dumplings, a lot of dumplings in it. You know, also the Russian soups, some of them they have a lot less in them, you know, because instead of eating one meal, sometimes you usually have like a soup, then you'd eat maybe some grains, maybe some, I almost said grechka, some buckwheat, which is grechka in Russian. Or you could eat some soup, then you eat a salad, which we won't do that in Antigua. We're eating one meal, one plate of food, and that's it. And so, yeah, that's, I think, the biggest difference is how we plate our food, how we eat our food, yeah, and how often we eat as well. I think Russians eat more often, whereas Antiguans eat less often, but we eat our foods in larger quantities, which is most likely where we might be a bit bigger. Yeah. And I think that's it. Yeah. If you like this, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you want more, subscribe. And if you would like to hear a bit more, tell me exactly what you'd like to hear in some comments. See you around.